Hello. So today's lesson, Sunday school lesson was making wise choices, and it comes from the book of Joshua, the 5th chapter, the 13th through 6th chapter, the 27th verse. And I'm going to tag this victory in obedience. So this is Joshua. We can learn a lot from Joshua about his leadership style, as well as just things we should do as we're making choices in our everyday life. So this story is about after they had crossed the Jordan River, and the children of Israel are getting ready to go into the Promised Land. And now check this out. We've heard the story of the walls of Jericho come tumbling down. So when we look at this, there are three things we learn from this. The first one is Joshua seeks the presence of God. So in the 15th chapter of the fifth verse, really the 13th through the 15th verse, we see Joshua comes in contact with this commander, and he says, "Hey, are you friend or foe? Are you with us or are you against us?" And he says, "I'm neither." And so he tells Joshua, "Take off your shoes, you are on holy ground." Joshua begins to worship God, because he knows he's in the presence of the Lord. So one of the first things we need to do when we have to make some decisions is seek God. So often, and I'm gonna say we, not you all, but we, when we have big decisions to make, sometimes we start, trying to figure it out ourselves. Seek God, ask God, and then stop and listen. And so then what the second thing we see is we see Joshua listening and taking direction. Now, here's the thing. What he's told to do literally makes probably no sense from our perspective. He's told to get an army. Now he's got an army, right? And they ready to fight. These are warriors. But he's told to take 7 priests, the Ark of the Covenant, and some of the armed people, have the priests blow a whistle, walk for 6 days, walk around Jericho one time, and on the seventh day walk around 7 times, and then the people are to shout. Now they're not supposed to say anything. That's a lesson all in itself. Only speak when you're supposed to, because this mouth thing gets us in trouble all the time. But listening to God, and then they are obedient. Now, y'all know that don't make sense. Some of the times when God is telling us to do some things, it's like, really, God? Is that what you really want me to do? Obedience. Be if you know you're hearing from God and he's telling you don't say a word, then don't say a word. Go into that situation and don't say a word. Don't open your mouth, and just watch what God does. Because here's what's cool. In the 6th chapter of in the 16th verse, after they walked around 7 times on that seventh day, and they started shouting, which they were not supposed to do until that last time, Joshua tells them, "You can shout now, for the Lord has given you the town." So a lot of times we go into situations and we trying to fight a battle that God has already given us. He had already given them. He had made a promise before that they were going to go into the promised land. So now they were already promised this land. So now they just needed to be obedient. And the victory was in them doing what God said, even when it doesn't make sense. So we're going to ask God to speak to our hearts, and we're going to listen, and then we're going to shout, because God has already given us the victory, because the victory is in our obedience. Have an awesome day.